Functional Physio here. Today, I'd like to talk a bit about the concept of overusing the psoas muscle or the hip flexor and the consequences of that, and some potential strategies, right, to help to correct this very common problem. But before I continue, please hit that subscribe button below so you'll be notified about any new videos that I have here on my channel. So essentially, the psoas muscle, it's a hip flexor, right? So it's one of those muscles that helps to do hip flexion, raising, raising the knee up. And it also is a muscle that attaches onto the lower back area. So I like to imagine it as sort of, again, connecting onto the femur, traveling inwards, connecting onto the vertebrae of the smaller section through the lower back. And what can sometimes occur, particularly as a compensation for weaknesses within the pelvic uh, weaknesses within the pelvic stabilizers, is this more superficial muscle. It can essentially work overtime in order to, again, compensate for weaknesses within the pelvic floor, weaknesses within the transverse abdominis muscle, weaknesses with the diaphragm. So these deeper pelvic stabilizers, again, when they're weak, the psoas will sometimes take over because of this inward weakness. And then due to its attachment points, right, the psoas muscle, this overactive psoas muscle, it's going to create all sorts of different movement dysfunctions, which then can create pain in through the lower back, in through the hip, and it can create all sorts of different movement dysfunctions. So one of the really common movement dysfunctions or kind of postural dysfunctions that we'll find with an overactive psoas is the patient will go into what's referred to as the anterior pelvic tilt position. Again, just because of the insertion points of this particular muscle. So this can look like for patients that might experience back pain, right? So I'll just go to the side here. So an anterior tilted pelvis, this is going to move forwards, right, in this position here. So this is, let's say, neutral. It's going to extend forward in this position, and then to compensate, hey, my lower back, it's going to be in much more of an arched position, right? So there's going to be all sorts of different shearing forces that are going to take place as a result of this overactive psoas in through the lower lumbar spine. So that can look like perhaps some pain with lifting type activities, pain with, because I'm in this over exaggerated extension based position, it can look like pain with compressive forces through the lower back. And again, now all of a sudden my spine and my pelvis are not in a neutral position. This might also impact my ability to walk correctly. This could also impact my ability to use my glutes correctly, to have kind of the center of my weight underneath me in a correct angle. So I'm actually able to utilize my glutes and the hips correctly. This might look like some over extension in through the spine when I'm, for example, doing hip extension back. So instead of being able to isolate just through the hip joint, right, in through here, all of a sudden, hey, I might be hyperextending through the lower back. And so again, the real key here then in addressing this, which I'm going to go through in other videos, is being able to reduce this overactivity through gentle soft tissue work in through the psoas muscle, in through activating these stabilizer muscles. So again, transverse abdominis, pelvic floor, the diaphragm. So all of these muscles that help to, these inner core muscles that help to stabilize the pelvis, so that all of a sudden, hey, the pelvis is strong. I can keep my back in more of a neutral position. And now I'm moving from this hyperextended anterior tilt type position in through the lower back. Now I'm much more neutral. Here's my strong place to then do whatever activity I need to. I've got that spine in that nice neutral position. So, hey, when I'm having to do, let's say, some sort of overhead type movement, I'm not arching through there, right? To that same extent, I've got that nice control. If I need to be doing some form of glute or gait retraining, I've got that strong foundation, that neutral spine. And again, I'm not arching or shearing through that particular area because, again, movement is going to go where there's the least resistance. So if I'm in this exaggerated anterior tilt position, chances are a lot of that movement and lack of resistance is going to shear through, and this hinging action is going to take place at that lower back area. If you're interested, by the way, in the concept of muscular compensations, of knowing which muscles to look at and address if you're noticing different movement dysfunctions, and going from a passive to more active approach in terms of rehab for your patients, I do have a course which is in the works right now, and I will have a link below from this video. Also, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about this or any other videos that I have. And also, again, please make sure that this video is appropriate for you. As a physiotherapist here, the goal of this channel is really to educate, right, other physiotherapists in terms of this more active approach to rehab and empowering their patients. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day. Take care.